Excellent. I think we can go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bill Roberts. I am Deputy CTO for Riverbed for DoD customers, defense across the world. I wanted to speak to you today about how we can equip the warfighter with actionable insights via intelligent automation. Would love to answer any questions you may have during it. We'll also have some time, hopefully, at the end to answer questions as well. So the reason why we're looking at automation to help with the delivering actionable insights to the warfighter is because we are seeing that there are resource constraints, especially personnel resource constraints within individual DoD commands, right? That you're having to do the same mission with a more complex environment with the same, or in some cases, fewer personnel to actually deliver that. So leveraging automation where possible to make better use of those personnel resources. We're also seeing across the DoD that there is a demand for a better user experience, that the individual warfighters and users within the DoD commands are expecting the same level of performance that they have at home. They're not wanting to wait 15 minutes or more for their PC to boot up during the day, that they are expecting as soon as they type in a command to get an immediate response and not have to wait a minute or more for that type of response, right? So the increasing demand from the end user is another reason to leverage that automation to ensure better performance across the environment. And then finally, we're seeing an increased amount of complexity within the enterprise IT, especially with the adoption of different edge technologies, zero trust, things along those lines, are creating blind spots that are harder to get data and metrics out of than your traditional networks. So those increasing complexity of the environments is also yet another reason why you can leverage automation to provide better insights in there. And so by leveraging that automation, you're able to make sure that the mission critical applications continue to run, that you are ensuring the very best experience and productivity levels for that end user. You can proactively identify and resolve issues instead of waiting for that end user to be the canary in the coal mine and tell you when there are things going on, right? Get ahead of the impact to the end users and be able to do that with existing applications and telemetry tools, right, without having to completely retool your entire environment, right? Do that within the existing one, and to do that at a platform level without having to leverage individual point solutions. So a little bit about the Riverbed platform itself. We deliver and have been delivering for just over 2 decades a full stack of telemetry that we can capture data from the endpoint, from within the network, and from the back-end application, and then consolidate and correlate that data together to provide those actionable insights. So that the first time an end user sees that, or the first time someone in IT sees that data, that's actually letting them know what's going on, who it is impacting, what the mission prioritization is, and potentially what the root cause or potential resolution is. And so this effectively reduces the IT alert volume that you're seeing in the environment. We're hearing from our direct customers that alert fatigue is a very real thing, that there is a lot of alerts coming out, and that those alerts are coming in with very point-specific information. This particular device is experiencing issue X. Well, that's great, but what does that mean in the larger context of delivering the solution or the application that the mission requires? And so that's what this automation is really doing, is taking all of that alerts, automating the workflow process that the level 3 or level 4 engineer would typically do with that alert, so that the first time it's displayed to a human, you have those actionable insights versus just some sort of an alert information. And this is part of a larger move towards unified observability that we are seeing across the industry, and that is taking what used to be monitoring, right? Typical up-down type of information, device-centric information, moving from that to what most of us refer to as visibility, where you maybe have a little bit of unification, some cross-domain analysis going on, things along those lines. Taking the next step and fully automating that so that you're getting the actionable insights. That's the last step to really achieving unified observability versus what you may consider a typical visibility type of scenario. And where possible, then automating the remediation as well. I'll give you an example that we're actually using within my company, leveraging our own software. We leverage MS Teams for our communication and collaboration tools. We saw that there was an issue with Teams cache getting built up, and that would cause performance issues. So we have now fully automated that we are measuring that cache, and when it reaches a certain level, we will initiate an automated remediation to actually go and clear that cache with the individual end user's input to say, yes, it's okay to go ahead and do that, I'm not in a call right now, et cetera, right? So you can leverage as much of that automation as you wish to take care of those repeatable issues, and then when it is maybe a more complex issue that you wouldn't necessarily trust automation, provide the input, provide that insight to the IT staff so that they can then perform the remediation action themselves. And so this is part of a larger initiative that a lot of folks are referring to as shifting left, right? And you saw earlier, I was talking about the proliferation of alerts, that over half of the alerts that folks are getting today, and this is based off of a study that was done by IDC, over half of the alerts are either false alerts or they are non-actionable alerts. So that is just noise that the IT team is having to filter through to get to that remaining percentage of 47 that is actually something you can do something with, right? So reducing that over half of the alerts, taking those completely out of the picture so that you are reducing that noise. And then we're also seeing that vast majority of organizations are seeing some sort of productivity impact from network outages, things along those lines. So what is providing the requirements and also is what some of the challenges to performing that shift left are things like, I mentioned, the increasing user expectations, the fact that you've got a lot of individual point solutions out there performing the actual monitoring that you're doing that are hard to correlate across, right? You have to have a data scientist in the mix to make sense of those disparate pieces of monitoring technology. And then you also, once again, are having personnel shortages, right? So you have few people to process that data, even though that the volume is increasing over and over. And then, of course, because of all of this, you get unnecessary escalations. You're bringing in level 3, level 4 resources when, if you were doing this appropriately, your level 1, level 2 could be addressing it. So if you start thinking about what is the future, what is the possibility that you can actually achieve, and things like reducing the mean time to detect, right? Not mean time to resolution, but mean time to detect. Just understanding what issues exist and what they're impacting, right? To actually bring that out of real user data, real data, to proactively identify those issues before they start to impact the individual end users, right? Reducing those alerts and things along those lines. Then also being able to further down the road improve the mean time to resolution, because you've already now shortened the time for detection, but you now have a automation that is telling you this is what we're seeing and this is what we think the resolution probably is, getting you further down the road towards actually getting that resolution done. And then when you have those things that are exactly the same over and over and over, being able to fully automate those and take them completely off of the hands of the personnel that you have, right? So that you don't have to be continuing to do the same thing over and over and over again. You allow automation to do that instead. So with Riverbed, we have solutions that help you do all of that, leveraging AI and ML workflows to not only automate the investigation, but also the remediation of those. And there's a couple of examples. If we start with just proactively identifying, right? This is that mean time to detect scenario. Just being able to get ahead of it to reduce the amount of disruption there is to the end user, to be able to correlate the end user device information with the network information, with the back-end application information, so that you understand what is actually impacting the end user's productivity from their perspective. And to be able to do that correlation leveraging AI and ML processes so that you can see where the deviations from the baseline are, right? We've established what the baseline performance is. We understand what normal is. Now we can identify where those abnormalities exist. And then take that information and take the existing expertise that you have, that we have, that our partners have in resolving these issues, and build these run books that say this is how we want to investigate these types of scenarios. This is what the process would be for us to do this if it was going to be sent to a level 3, level 4 network engineer. And then automate that, including whatever integration may be necessary into third-party telemetry sources, third-party data sources, third-party remediation sources, so that the run book is doing that work instead of having that higher-level engineer do that work, as well as being able to perform the remediative action as part of the results of that, or simply provide the insights, those actionable insights, to the IT staff earlier. Also, specifically within the network environment, you can use that machine learning to correlate the critical incidents that may be happening, to understand multiple impacts that may be derived from the same source, so that you can quickly identify those large spread, high impact type of incidents that are going on. And also leveraging that same run book concept for the network side of the house, right? As well as integration into ITSM solutions, ServiceNow, BMC, whatever that may be, being able to integrate into SIMs and provide data to or pull data from them to inform or to be part of that overarching process. And then finally, when you start to think about how you can share that data further down the line to enable your level 1, level 2 reps to be able to do that without escalation, right? So that's really the end result of the shift left, is that you're doing more of that work lower in the team, so that you're not having to escalate into the higher levels of the engineering team, freeing up their time so that they can continue to be proactive and develop and get ahead of problems instead of constantly putting fires out. Once again, overall reducing mean time to resolve those issues. So, just in summary, by leveraging this automation capability to first detect and then increase the speed of resolving issues, you're able to reduce that mean time to detect, the mean time to resolve, and then fully automate some of the most repeatable IT processes that we see in the environment. So we've got about 5 minutes in the time left. Would love to open it up to any questions. If there's something more specific, something that you were interested in knowing more about. If you're shy and don't want to talk about it here in the public forum, our booth is just down row 6 here. We're at 607. Would love to have that conversation with you there at the booth as well. So what questions do you have? Use cases or scenarios that you may think automation may be applicable to? None? All right. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate your attention, and hopefully we'll see you at the booth.